All right, let's start with the basics. Where are you from?
I'm from Houston, Texas, where I was born and raised on the south side, specifically Hiram Clark.
Now, how did you get into the custom automotive industry?
The way I got into the industry was really by growing up in my grandmother's house, spending summers over there, seeing cars pass by. That's where the passion started. Wanting to see all the rappers, the local rappers drive by with the fancy cars. So I wanted to have something like that one day. So I started saving money to get something so I could ride like that.
But how did you actually get into the industry?
So where I actually started for sure was in high school. I fixed up my personal car. Me and my buddy, we both did, and people just started asking us for ideas and tips to be like, okay, I see you did that to your car. Help me make my car look good too. What would you do to my car if you had my car? And that's how we kind of started helping them, and then we later turned that into something we can make money off of.
So is this something you went to school to learn to do, or how does that work?
We didn't go to school for it at all. We were in school, but we didn't go to actually like to a trade school to learn how to do it. It's more like kind of learning as you go, trial and error with everything. Like one of our first jobs we did was literally in his garage with somebody, with some glue and like a hot stick trying to put their custom dash on.
Now, what car was it in high school that you worked on personally that got people's attention to work on their cars and give ideas and so on and so forth?
My car that made everybody start asking questions was a 1997 Tudor Honda Civic EX. And in that car, I put 4 TVs, 4 12s, had 17-inch Inkies, which was at the time like literally $420 a rim, which in high school is $1 million. So, it's a lot of nights I worked at the movies at the time to save money to put that car together.
So you start doing this in school, trial and error, learn as you go. And how long have you been in the industry at this point for?
Overall now, 13 plus years. I mean, if you count the time that wasn't on the record, you say at least 20 some or more odd years in it, but officially 13 plus years been in the industry.
Now, do you have your own personal, customization collection of vehicles yourself?
Well, I'm actually just now restarting over. Before, the last car I had was a Cadillac XLR, and it was a 2-door convertible. It was red on red with the red inside. So now I got rid of that. So I'm looking for some more projects to start for my personal collection. Sometimes customers, they get you so buried in their projects, it's hard for you to get your own personal collection going.
Now, when you do your personal collection, do you personally work on it yourself?
Well, yeah. Well, as far as ideas, I put them together. But now we have employees that actually make those ideas turn into reality. Because some things that I'm just not physically able to do like they can. I can put it on paper and put the idea out there, but to make it come into reality, that's their specialty.
Now, how did your brand come about? Give me the whole story behind your brand and everything like that.
Well, Next Level, the way it came out was because originally I wanted to do a store in Los Angeles. So we wanted to do something that would be catchy in LA. So on paper, Next Level Automotive was in LA. So, if we put it on license plates, T-shirts, we thought people would be like, okay, what's in LA? And you'd be like, well, Next Level Automotive is in LA. But instead of doing it in LA first, we ended up doing the store in Houston, and then later ended up opening the store in Los Angeles.
Did you live in Los Angeles?
Never lived in Los Angeles. Been there so many times. Fell in love with the women, the weather, the just the location there. So it just was something, just one of those things where you knew that market there was a big market to put the cars in, because they love cars and spending money like that.
Now, you're born and raised in Houston.
Mm-hmm.
Why would you want to go out all the way to LA, someplace that you never really lived in before, to start a car company or a brand like that? Why not start in Houston, which is also very, popular with the car culture?
I feel Houston is a great place. Sometimes I feel like we're trendy. Like, for example, we're one of those cities that, when they see somebody like LA, Miami, New York, Atlanta doing something, then we're like, okay, you know what, let's do what they're doing. So in my mind, I feel like doing something in LA is where they're the people that are open to new ideas, new things, without having to, preach to them and sway somebody. In Houston, you have to kind of sway them unless they see it somewhere else. Then they're more likely to be like, let's do that too.
So now you have your own shop.
Mm-hmm.
How long have you had your own shop for?
2 years now.
2 years?
Yes,
okay.
sir. 2 years at our own shop.
But you've been doing it, you said you've been in the business for 13 years, so what about those 11 years? Were you working for somebody else, or how did that work?
Yeah, beforehand, I was my friends that I originally had started with. We had a company together, so literally we grew up together and we started a company together, and that's how we kind of got that local fame or whatever the case may be, as people knowing us. But then towards the end, things change. People kind of grow up and grow apart, have different business ideas. So we just went our separate ways, and so that's why now I have my own individual place.
And you have two places. Did that happen at the same time? Because in 2 years to have two locations is pretty quick.
Man, I mean, I think it's really quick too. I mean, to be honest with you, I didn't expect it to be that fast. It was one of those situations where, like, God controls it, because we did the first store in Houston and things were picking up in Houston. Then I had my buddy in LA, like, man, let me run the LA store, just commute back and forth, and we together put that store together in LA. So it was really amazing, still to this day.
So explain the process. You opened 2 years ago in Houston. How long before the LA location opened up?
We opened 2 years ago in Houston, and LA store opened approximately about 9.5 months into our first year. The LA store opened.
So is that more like a franchise type of thing, or would you still look at more as like still under the same, I guess, company, same own? I mean, company, of course, but is that more, when you say your buddy wanted to run it,
right?
Is that still like your personal store, you have somebody running it or managing it, or is it more like a franchise type of situation? You get what I'm saying?
Right, I get what you're saying. I think it'd be more like of a. It's funny because it's more like it is a franchise style, but we're still friends. Sometimes when you have franchises, like for example, let's say like Chick-fil-A, somebody can franchise Chick-fil-A and they say, as long as you pay the bills and do what, don't disregard any of our rules, we'll never talk, whatever. In this situation, we still talk on a day-to-day basis, text, email, whatever. So it's more hands-on. So business-wise, it would be labeled franchise, but personally, we're still friends and we still communicate as friends and not really just business only.
Does one store do better than the other?
It's weird because as far as numbers, I feel like the Houston store does better numbers, but the LA store can do one job that can foresee the Houston store's numbers. You know what I mean? Because in LA, they just spend money in a different manner. Houston, you can get like 5 jobs that equal 10,000. Well, in LA, one guy could come and drop 12 grand on one project. So right there, you are the 2 grand ahead of the other store.
Have you thought about opening in other cities or locations?
Indeed, we talked about doing a store in Miami also. That's another place where they're definitely into the wave and the trends. It's by the beach. It's a lot of fun in the sun, so they're definitely into spending money, having a good time for sure.
Now, where did that brand name come from?
Well, Next Level, it is weird because I feel like that whenever you're in life, you always want to level up, do something bigger, do something to the next step. So that's where it really came from. It's like, I've done this in my life already with my previous business situation, so now I want to go to the next step. So it's like, okay, versus saying next step, it would be the next level, and that's where we're going, to the next level.
Any influences or anybody that inspired you before you started your own company and so on and so forth?
For sure, definitely. A long time ago, 310 Motoring definitely for sure was one of those companies where you could not ignore. I'll never forget, they did a truck for Gary Payton, the chocolate truck. Oh my God, that was one of those things when you saw, like, how could you even do something like that? We were just barely putting leather in cars, and it had this chocolate suede interior. And so 310 nationally, and of course locally, it's a guy, ties with Progressive Autosport. He's a friend of mine now, but to see then, like, he's just somebody I admired, and now we talk and text and communicate. It's a beautiful turnaround.
Now, what's your opinion of the state of the custom automotive industry at this point?
The state of it now, it's definitely forever evolving and changing. And it's weird because the things that we used to try to put on customers that they would say no to, the dealerships are even offering. Like, for example, before we were pushing doing matte paint jobs, people were like, I don't want to get that non-shiny paint job. But now you go to Mercedes, they will sell that car package with a paint upgrade, like 10 grand. And we were selling it for like 6 grand. And people will buy that and finance that. And it's just amazing to see that now the dealerships are trying to force people to kind of always go back, even like simple stuff like oil changes and headlights. They're trying to merge the custom world out of the equation. But the good thing is there's still always that person that wants to get their own personal touch and not look like the person in the traffic next to them. They want to be different. So it'll always be alive.
Is there a lot of competition in Houston for your type of services?
Definitely, there's a lot of competition because I just feel like in the industry, anything where you have somebody that's paying for a service, you have people that sometimes leave bad taste in people's mouths. For example, when they do people dirty and don't do the job that they're supposed to, or in a timely fashion, it just makes people leery of doing certain things. So with that, you have other stores that offer different things, and everybody's trying to price war, things like that. The best thing to do is just do what you say you're going to do, when you're going to do it, and for affordable or decent price.
Now, if somebody's not familiar with your brand, or somebody hearing it for the first time watching this interview, especially in the Houston market, how does your brand differ from the other competitors?
I feel like our brand personally, literally, when we say next level, we mean that in every aspect. A lot of services that we offer to customers is just one of those things that you couldn't even pay for somewhere else. They wouldn't even want to offer it. Like, we offer door-to-door services from work to home. If you have a car that needs whatever, we would come pick it up for you and do the whole thing without you even lifting a finger. So it's one of those things where you have to go the extra mile to make sure that you would do something that would separate you from the masses. I mean, because anybody can go anywhere to buy tires and rims. They go online, they have to never leave their home. But if you offer something enough that's enticing to somebody to want to shop with you, that's what's gonna make you stand out from others.
Now, you're the owner of the company.
Yes, sir.
Now, how hands-on are you with these services that you offer, and what services do you currently offer at this point?
As far as being hands-on, like now, because of time, I'm not as hands-on as I used to be. I'm more like kind of like overseeing and making sure things are getting done. I have some great people that work with me. I would never say under me. They work with me because without them, I would be not even sitting here at this point to feel comfortable. So at this point, I'm more like saying, making sure things are getting done, like making lists. Like, is this going on? Is this being taken care of? And not over the shoulder so much. Just making sure we have good communication. And the services that we do offer is so vast, it's kind of hard to be able to even be hands-on with everything. Like, for example, we do tint, body work, paint, interior, car shipping. It's just so much. You have to have a good team to support you to get the job done.
And what type of vehicles do you work on?
When we work on all vehicles, we have no discrimination. All car lives matter. So for that matter, we do. I don't care if it's a Pinto or or a Bentley or a Maserati or a Metrobus. We've done 18-wheelers. I mean, we've done bikes. We've done 3-wheelers. We've done toy cars. So it's really just a situation where if you got a project that we can get down with, we're gonna do it. We're not gonna tell you no.
Boats, planes?
Boats. I got a guy supposedly supposed to have a jet that wants me to do some custom seats, so I'm waiting for that phone call.
Now, what's the most popular service out of all your services that you do? What do you get hit up about a lot?
I think now the main thing we get more now is a lot of paint and body work. Before it was like rims and tires and stuff like that, but now we do a lot of insurance claims because people have a lot of accidents and people just can't drive. It's not always an individual's fault, but things happen, and it's one thing they can't control. So a lot of accident phone calls. So with the insurance claims, we're very hands-on. We're helping the customer deal with it and getting the job done and getting the car back right.
Now, in Houston, especially with the rap music scene, the car culture has always been rapped about.
Yes.
People talking about coming dine. Is that how you pronounce it, right?
Coming dine.
Pop in the trunk.
Yeah.
Sitting on Vogues, right? I mean,
Right.
Where are people in Houston at today with this type of lingo and this type of work? Or do they still do that?
And the crazy thing is, yeah, they still pop the trunk, they still come down, they still swing and run up curves. But it's like now you got a culture that even if they have that kind of car, they still got that Maserati, they still got that BMW, they still got the Mercedes, because that's just our history, and that's something that we can never overlook. What brought us to the light nationally, but at the same time, we know, and we still want that being sitting on the AMG, wheels, and the Lorenzo kit and the wall body kit. We know about all that, so it's just part of our history.
Now, what do some of those terms mean? If people heard them in rap songs but don't know exactly what it means, what do those terms mean?
As far as the coming down?
Yeah, coming down, the
Coming
swinging
down,
and all that stuff.
Basically, coming down is like if you anywhere in the city and you're on a block or neighborhood and you're coming down the street and everybody looking, you're coming down and you clean, you got your music up, your sound right, your car wash, your rim spinning. That's coming down because everybody see you coming down the street. Or down the block, or even through the club parking lot. You be in the valet, or the club's letting out, and you pass about your music blaring, that new music, whatever, that new Southern Smoke jamming. You know what I mean? Everybody listening to you coming down.
Swanging?
Swanging is literally like left to right. You know, it's no regard for other people. Unfortunately, I've seen people have accidents swanging, like literally you just jerk your car just left to right on the steering wheel, and it's pretty bad sometimes, to be honest with you.
Is that the stuff like you'll see in some of the music videos in slow motion where they kind of go from left to right?
Right. So exactly, you see it in slow motion. Imagine you're going down the street, going down 85 or 75, see somebody swinging at 60 miles per hour. It's crazy. So people do that all the time, and it's one of those things. Again, that's like, you know, people have ghost riding the whip. We have swanging. That's what people do. They just sway in their car.
What about tipping?
Tipping. Tipping is more like, you know, what they say, crawling. So if you tipping on fofos or on Vogues, you're just crawling down. So making sure that nobody miss you. So if you coming through that neighborhood or the front of the mall, that Lennox, you valeting and everybody standing outside, you're going to tip to make sure everybody see your rims, everybody see even your haircut. You just looking out like, okay, you see me, all right, bet. You know, I'm looking good. That's tipping.
Popping the trunk?
Popping trunk is, you know, it's been popular to have that switch where you raise the trunk, and normally I've seen people mess up the game where they have not had the custom trunk. They just have a box back there, but you're supposed to have a custom trunk. A lot of times LED lighting that'll say your neighborhood or whatever you want to say. That way you see, you know, I'm popping my trunk so you see what's going on and what I'm representing and where I'm from.
Vogues?
Vogue tires is what you wrap the swangers in. So, you know, they come in 15s, 17s, 20s, and 22s. So that's what you wrap the swanger in.
Any other terms or lingo I'm forgetting? That's what came to my mind.
Of course, you know about candy paint. You know,
Okay.
Candy painting. That's that super extra glossy paint that the, you know, Southern hip hop culture has definitely always talked about, and that's still going on. People put candy paint now on Benzes and Bentleys, so and Maserati. So that's still going on to this day.
Now, do you remember that TV show on MTV, Pimp My Ride?
For sure, I can never forget Pimp My Ride.
What were your thoughts on that?
My initial thoughts on Pimp My Ride is they're doing this for exposure. Because you know, anybody that's truly into the culture and the car culture, they wouldn't. Some of those projects, they're just really too far. You know what I mean? It's one thing to have a custom fish tank, you know, in the car, but then it's like custom fish tank. You doing some stuff just got kind of corny. So if you're really in the industry and you really take pride in your work, it's like you don't want to see that go that far to where the point where it's getting laughed at. You want it to be respected like anybody else would on their job. You don't want your project or something that you have a passion about to get turned into a mockery, and that's where some of the projects turned into, in my opinion.
Did people ever want to emulate what they saw on TV at asking as far as a service?
Exactly. I think one of the most hated questions I heard people say is like, "Oh, okay, you guys are kind of like Pimp My Ride, right?" And it's like, yeah, but no. I mean, sometimes, you know, you would agree just so people have, you know, the correlation, you know, in the conversation. But essentially, we're not like Pimp My Ride because what we're doing is something that can be respected. It's not something that's to be like, oh, wow, you did this and from a hoopty. Nah, we're doing something that people actually invest in their time, energy, and want a great project.
Now, what's the most, okay, you know, Pimp My Ride is obviously a TV show where they fix up cars and, you know, do some extraordinary things. Right. What's the most extraordinary or unique thing you've been asked to do that you've actually done?
I think the most extraordinary thing I've been asked to do on recently on the Polaris Slingshot, we were asked to put flamethrowers on it, put airbags on it, custom spikes, a custom grill, 24s, and painted it, and custom seats. It was one of those things initially because those bikes were still new. Nobody had done it yet. But once we did it, it was one of those things where like, man, I was impressed with the project because, you know, it wasn't like some cars you've seen before. So somebody can say, oh, you can do a car like XYZ. But when somebody comes to you and say, make this happen, it's more hard work because there's nothing for you to compare to or rely on because nobody has an answer for you. So that job for sure. What's
the most unique or extraordinary request you've had but you had to turn down because it's something you just couldn't do or maybe didn't want to do?
Yeah, a guy, he had bought an old Metro bus and he wanted to kind of convert it into like a stripper lounge on wheels. And it's kind of one of those things where like, you know, I don't know if it's affected by religion or I don't know what it was. Just one of those things where like, I didn't want to participate in that. And I just told him, hey, it's one of those jobs I'd rather not take on.
So you have turned down work?
Oh yeah, I have before for sure.
Now, how much is the most someone has spent with your company before? Like on just custom work and your services?
One project, I think the most somebody spent so far is probably like $35,000.
35 grand on customization.
Yes, sir, on customization. And that was actually on that slingshot, like I told you about. That's the one that went all the way out. I mean, it was all the way pimped out, like they say.
Was that a celebrity or a
That was just a
athlete?
car. No, just a car enthusiast. That's the crazy thing. People don't. A lot of people think that celebrities are the ones that spend most of the money. A lot of times, in my opinion, I think a lot of their projects are price inflated. I think more of the everyday car lovers are the ones who spend more money on the projects. You know what I mean? Because they know what they want, and they a lot of times they've done the homework to their idea what they want, and they have no problem paying. Sometimes, celebrities get a lot of things for free, and they don't per se spending that money. And nothing against that. Celebrities, if I was to get something free, I'll take it too. But as far as spending the money, the car enthusiasts spend more of their money.
What celebrities or athletes or famous people have you had a chance to work on their cars and provide services for? If you want to name them.
Well, yeah, well, I'll just say that, the players, what teams. Definitely players for the Rockets, Houston Astros. Thaddeus Young was a good buddy of mine. I think, where's he? I think he's in Brooklyn now. NBA. Ted's that plays for the Rockets also. So it's been a lot of basketball players for sure.
Who's been the coolest to work with?
Before, I think the coolest person we worked with was Vince Young. Like, that's somebody also we went to school with and grew up with. So we had a prior relationship. So it was kind of more, our history preceded the actual car job itself. So that made it very down to earth. The next, I would say, probably would be Adrian Peterson.
Worst celebrity to work with?
Oh, I would definitely won't say the name. I won't say that, but I just say this. I mean, some people can be very anal, selfish. You know what I mean? But again, it goes back to people getting a lot of free things. So it's kind of one of those things where people are getting the carpet laid out for them everywhere. When it's time to really pay for some services, people forget that, everybody's not rich around you or can afford to do certain things. You have to have money to make a job complete and work.
What's the most exotic car or vehicle you've worked with? I use the word car, but I mean vehicle. What's the most exotic piece of automotive that you work with?
I'm torn because we worked with a BMW i8 and we worked with a Ferrari 458, and those are just two personal favorites of mine because it's all about who you ask. That, in my opinion, those are the most exotic ones we worked with before. But we've also worked on, of course, the Bentleys, the Maseratis, all of the Maybachs and stuff like that. But those are my two personal favorites.
Hardest car to work on?
Man.
Or vehicle?
I think the hardest one to work on, I had a party bus, and it was just hard to work on just because the simple fact that, it was just old, parts were kind of out the date. So it's like one of those things where looking for parts for one part could take you all day. So it just was an uncomfortable job to work with.
Is there a specific type of vehicle or type of car that you want to work on and just haven't done yet?
Yes, definitely. I want to touch the Bugatti. That's one that I would definitely want to work on, put some wheels on, but those are kind of rare and hard to find.
Now, there's magazines in the hip-hop community that are in the car culture, like what, Dub, Rides?
Right.
In your opinion today, what rappers are leaders in the custom automotive industry?
Ooh, definitely I would have to give a shout out to Yo Gotti for definitely trend setting with the car game. Yo Gotti for sure. Meek Mill had a good run with some cars. I seen him doing some stuff. Who else? T-Pain, I don't even know what he does now, but in his prime, he had a lot of cars. I was amazed at his car collection. Who else? Rocco also. Rocco has a very good car collection. I've seen his. That's probably about the ones that I know of for sure.
Have you had a chance to work with rappers? We talked about celebs and athletes and stuff like that.
Yes, definitely. I work with, the local rappers. Slim Thug, we're cool because we're all from the same area. Just done some small stuff for him, nothing big projects. Because, he's a guy who definitely in his longevity of career gets things that are handed to him. And I'm never mad at that. I love the fact that we can evolve to a point to where we don't have to pay for things. So,
I see. Now, what are the car trends or vehicle trends currently for 2016 and that you see happening in the future? What are people getting a lot of or wanting to get right now at this point?
Well, the thing now is I think one of the hot seller is just because I'm in Houston, like a lot of people are getting tint, That's like a number one thing people get, just tinted, which is it's something simple and basic, but it's like one of those things that'll never go away. Everybody always wants tin because it's just 1,000 degrees in Houston for no reason. So it's like I don't care if you're just a everyday worker or somebody that's a celebrity, or whatever. For privacy purposes, everybody wants to get tint.
Trends you want to see come back? Any, if any?
I don't think there's any trends that probably need to come back. If something died in the automotive industry, it probably just should have died, or just got outdated. You know what I mean? Like some things, it's just time for it to move on. So nothing coming back.
Now, when it comes to the custom automotive industry, what bothers you the most about it at this point? What's your biggest pet peeve, if any?
I think my only pet peeve in the industry is just people that are still afraid to go the extra mile. Like, again, like I was saying earlier, some people, they're just so caught on looking like somebody else's project, or I saw this car, he made my car look like this. That's just one of those things, like, on my side, it just makes you cringe because, if you're going to spend money, I would think you would want to spend money on separating yourself from the masses, not spending money to look like somebody else, on the street.
Now, we talked about competition in Houston, and we talked about just competition in general, right?
Right.
Do custom automotive companies like yourself have beef with each other?
There are places that I have heard that have actual beef, but that's not our standpoint. I mean, with us, we're cool with everybody. Like we work with, like I told you, one of the guys that I looked up to before I got heavy in industry, we still communicate and talk now. So there's no beef on my side. If anybody asks me, I'm gonna say no. I know people that have beef and that are beefing, but me personally, I have no beef, and I would frown upon somebody wanting to beef in an industry that's designed to help people. I mean, we're a people industry.
What do they beef over?
I think people just beef mainly for like bragging rights and for just for foundation. People always want to say they're first to do XYZ, or I'm doing this better than XYZ or whatever. But in reality, it really goes down to the customer. If the customer's the one that's happy, they're the one whose opinion counts the most.
Risk versus reward. What's the biggest risk you took for your custom automotive brand so far?
I think the biggest risk I took was even just by starting. Because initially, when I started on my own, that was, in my opinion, that was my last resort. I could have just got a regular job and got back to blend in with normal life, but that wasn't what I wanted to do. I took the last money that I had and just invested in and got my own first store, which was in Houston.
Proudest accomplishment so far?
I think the proudest accomplishment is getting somebody from the local city in Houston to recognize the work that we've done, not only just as far as dealing with customers, just in community, because we do a lot of community stuff as far as Thanksgiving, toy drives, and things like that. And to have somebody in the city of Houston recognize that was my biggest accomplishment. It made me feel like we're actually going places.
What's the biggest misconception of you or your brand?
I think the biggest misconception would be that it's expensive. Because people just, when they think about cars, they just, oh Lord, how much that, that's a natural reaction people hear about cars and upgrades and things like that. But when you really break it down and somebody really listens to what they're getting, like for example, 4 rims and 4 tires, you're technically getting 8 pieces of product, and you're delivering that and installing that. If you think about that, if you can get that for under $2,000, depending on what you're buying, that's a pretty good deal.
What are your keys to success?
My keys is just keep praying, going to church, and just believing in God's word, and that's what keeps everything flowing. My mom is one of those backbones in my life who kind of told me and supported me and exposed me to a lot of different things early on. So that's what kind of helped me be open-minded and not afraid to just be different and separate from the crowd.
Now you own a company of 2 locations.
Yes, sir.
Speaking in generally now, what's some advice or maybe some do's and don'ts on owning a business? And this doesn't have to, again, refer just to the car or the custom automotive industry services and brand. This could be any type of company that one watching this interview is just wants to get some entrepreneurial advice. What are some do's and don'ts or some advice on owning an own business or starting an own business? What would you say to that person?
I would think some do's and don'ts would definitely be, well, to do is definitely believe in yourself and your idea and do something that you would do for free. If you were gonna wake up in the morning and know that you could work 12, 13 hours and get $0 and still go home and be happy and not disgusted, then that's what I would pursue. Because every day is not going to be a day where you're making thousands and thousands of dollars. Sometimes you can have great weeks, great seasons, great months, but then other times you can have where you're not having income, but you have to be able to survive and maintain. So that's something you have to do. Just get a great support team. If you get at least one person behind you that believes in you and can just encourage you to keep going, then should be enough if it's your passion to do what you want to do with your life and business.
Any other do's or don'ts?
Don't trust everybody, for sure. You can't trust everybody that's like a lot of yes people. Sometimes people, once you get in business and have something going, you got people that, kind of like, get around you like, man, do this, whatever, man, be great, whatever. They're not always for you. Sometimes you have to be able to stand your own ground and look past the light per se and just see like, well, look, I need to do this way because this is what I was taught. This is what I think should work, and just do it your way.